Most Americans are just one step away from disaster. A staggering 61% of U.S. adults say they're living paycheck to paycheck. And my guest says the future isn't looking all that much brighter. Now, let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because the odds are against most leaders. And today's guest not only beat the odds, but he's here to help you beat those odds as well.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Today's guest, Grant Muller, is a speaker, author, certified high-performance coach, and a seven-figure real estate agent. In his new book, Muller chronicles his 15-year journey from homelessness to a thriving real estate career, all from prioritizing real human relationships. Top of the Heart, how a new approach to business saved my life and could save yours too. That's the book, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Welcome to the show, Grant.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. I want to dive right in because yours is an amazing journey. If I've got it right, you're on the brink. You were kind of hopeless, battling addiction, homelessness, and you not only saved your life, you transformed this into how you kind of approach business. Talk us through that.
Well, in my early life, I learned pretty quickly to pretend to be someone I'm not to make it in this world. And that's a longer story, but I got pretty good at it. And then in my early 20s, I ended up in corporate America, had some really good early success, still pretending to be someone I'm not. And I ended up at an internet startup this is the late 90s. And I know I'm aging myself here, but my haircut does that for me. And we ended up getting rich. Porsches and Ferraris started showing up in the parking lot. This is before Google, but we had breakfast and lunch and dinner catered in the office. We were wearing jeans to the office back before it was cool. So life was good. Only problem was I had made the millionaire by 30 goal I'd set for myself, but I still hated who I was. I was pretending to be someone I was not, and I was miserable. And so I burned it all down. I lost that job within 6 months after going public because I developed cocaine addiction. And I had been drinking throughout the whole story of my life, but I had been managing. And cocaine just picked me up and threw me against the wall. And it got worse from there. I ended up not just on the brink, but I ended up homeless, living on the streets. And when I finally got clean and sober, and I didn't save my own life, I helped, but there was a ton of help along the way. And when I got clean and sober, I learned in recovery that the only way to stay clean and sober is to get real. So I had to get real for the first time in my life. And at the same time, I was learning things in the business world that were telling me it wasn't okay to be who I really was. And I thought, gosh, I'm finally who I really am. And now I got to pretend to make it and make my way back. And so I decided to leave that all on the side and just be who I really was, which has now become this top of heart worldview. And it ended up being super successful. So that's kind of how, I know it's a long story, but that's the short version.
Well, I know there's a much longer version because you lived it, but I can connect to you in certain ways, not quite as dramatically, but came out of the University of Maryland. I was an insurance salesman. So I sold life, health, and disability, and I was good at it. Made a lot of money. I was out earning my dad. My first year, had an office overlooking the Potomac River in the Kennedy Center.
Wow.
But I didn't feel like that's what I was put on the earth to do. And I had my own kind of crisis. And I claim I should be in the Guinness World Record book for taking the largest pay cut. But I just sort of walked away from it and said, no, there's something else from me here. What's impressive about you, Grant, is that, we hear the voices, but do we listen to them? And
Wow.
Clearly you're a guy who listens. It took me a little bit longer, but, and as I say, not as dramatic, but now it's easy. We look back and we think that's part of our journey. It's what makes us who we are. In your book, do you talk about being authentic? Do you travel into that particular topic?
Yes. And so, listen, I didn't listen to the voice. I dragged myself along the very bottom for a long time. So the only reason I listened to the voice is I had a choice: go to prison for 4 years, die, listen to the voice. So the voice really had to shake me. And part of that was, hey, how do I show up as I really am and figure out who that person is? And so that's the authentic piece.
Yeah.
And when I started working on that, because of course that word is so big today, be authentic. But when I looked at it, I realized also that I had to figure out not only who am I, but how can I improve who I am so that I'm actually okay with being who I am. So it wasn't just a matter of just listening. But right now in business and sales, we have these what we call top of mind tactics, and I say they keep us in front of rather than with people.
Mm-hmm.
They keep us relevant rather than real. And that age of putting up a business front, it's over.
Yeah.
And we need to be fully formed, real human beings, because people buy from people, not from businesses, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. And so I think with AI right now, it's replacing a lot of those pieces of the sales process. And all that's really going to be left is going to be our ability to create real human, heart-centered communications and relationships. And so I think it's time to just show up as we really are, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, you're stepping into my world right now, because that's
cool.
That's who I am. 40-year sales trainer. It's what I write about. And there's a lot of fear about AI, and I think a lot of us don't understand it. And it's usually one of our biggest fears is the fear of the unknown. But for me, and for what I'm hoping is most salespeople, we don't fear it quite so much, because our job is to help people over their fear of change. Our job is to ask people questions that they've never asked themselves. That's what, and go deeper and not shy away from the problem, but help that client understand that problem. I think one of the biggest issues we have in sales actually is we've lost sight of the whole problem solving. We're just kind of feature benefit. I got a whiff of a problem there, Grant. Let me give you 4 ways to fix it. I'm assuming that's not the way to work with an addict either. I think I have to create trust, and then I have to travel through that problem with you and earn the right to offer a solution. And I don't know how AI does that. Right. And if they do, I don't want to hear about it.
It's true. And also we have to be okay with the solution perhaps not being the thing that we're selling.
Yeah.
Because if all roads of the sales process lead to what we want, then that's not really selling, that's manipulating.
Yeah. I agree with you. So you talk about top of the heart, okay? And obviously that's a pretty big term for you, because that's the title of the book. But let's go a little deeper into that. How kind of walk me through that? I see a registered trademark on there. I see branding to that. Give me the elevator pitch on your version of what top of the heart really means.
Sure. So top of heart is built upon top of mind.
Okay.
So the first thing I always like to say is, look, know, like, and trust. That's part of top of mind is a beautiful thing. And we need, let's talk about life insurance agents. Let's say that we know, top of mind, I can think of 4 people I know, like, and trust that are life insurance agents. All right, great. Now what? And so top of heart is the next level. It's just top of mind is great, but it doesn't go far enough. So top of heart is mindset, skill set, and heart set. So the mindset to get real and authentic, to be present and open with our people. That's the mindset. But like I mentioned earlier, it's all great if you're real and you're authentic, but you also got to have the goods. So you got to have the skill set. And the skill sets around things like excellence, personal development, those pieces that you already know as a sales trainer. And then heart set is around aligning with the people, creating real human, heart-centered connections with our clients. So it's mindset, skill set, and heart set. Right. And the book covers a lot of practices and a lot of details about this new process. Frankly, I'm still learning to talk about it in less than 10 minutes, but that's the basic framework.
Yeah. And, professional speaker to, author, that's what makes a professional speaker. People are going to
Absolutely.
understand that what
Yeah.
makes a professional speaker good, what makes an author good when they talk about their book. And I always struggle when I come out with a new book because I need, like a boxer, I need some ring work.
Yeah.
Is we learn how to do what you just said. We learn how to explain things succinctly and quickly and easily. And there's an art to that. And that's why most speakers, when they haven't given a presentation before, the fear is we'll always go short. I've never given this presentation. No, you won't. You'll go long because you don't have it tightened down yet. When you start writing a book, when you take that journey that you took, when you get up on a stage and start speaking about it, the more ring work you get, the more economical you become in being able to explain it. So
and the more we understand something, the shorter it takes for us to explain it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. And by the way, let me clean up my mess. Not top of the heart, top of heart. That's your branding. I want to get that right. So it's top of heart. And I noticed it came out July 11th. So this is a bouncing baby book. This is new. How's it doing?
It's doing really well. So in the first week, we were #1 in 5 different categories, some of which I didn't even know existed, and top 5 in 8 of the categories. And it's doing well. Its best measure, most important measure, have been a ton of posts from readers, reviews from readers. I think we have 63, 64 reviews. Reading those reviews, reading the messages that I'm getting, the messages getting to the right people. And those people are salespeople and entrepreneurs, some leaders, and then also people in recovery or those who care about people who should be in recovery. So both of those are happening. At one point last week, I was joking because there's a book, the Alcoholics Anonymous 12 Steps book. It's called The Big Book in 12 Steps. It's considered the Bible of Alcoholics Anonymous. And at one point we were #1 and they were #2. And I was saying, I'm bigger than the big book. I'm cured, I guess, right? But just jokingly. But it's been really fun to watch people's reaction to the book.
Congratulations on the 63 reviews, by the way. That tells me a lot about your book already, because that can take a long time for some authors. Now, people listening to this interview right now, they know that I take those reviews very seriously. And so let's give Grant a little bit more time. But I'm telling you, the greatest thing you can do for an author is not just read the book, but write a review. It really helps. It helps the algorithm. It helps. So, if it isn't your cup of tea, then keep your mouth shut. But if it is, get on there and write 2 sentences, 3 sentences. We don't need to hear your life story. We just need to hear those 1 or 2 sentences. It's a gift to the author. So that's a gift I hope my listeners will give you. Okay, a blog. Do you write a blog?
No, I do short form video. I love video. And I'm just in the process right now of revamping that process, really going to the next level with video. I'm all in on video. I love it. So we've just done some masterminding around new editing, improving the content. It's something that I really enjoy doing. So that's mostly where I am. Writing articles, though. I've been in a few publications. So I'm writing some articles and enjoying that as well.
Good. I'm happy with the video. I feel like I'm doing a little coaching, but the key, Grant, is you got to pick your spot.
Exactly.
But we need to hear from you. And so whether it's on video, TikTok, Instagram, doesn't matter to me. But we pick one so that we can share. And I don't know about you, but for most of us, if it's a blog, Instagram, whatever, it's usually the interactions we're having. So we write the book. Then we have a conversation with somebody who the book really meant something to, or they taught us something. And that's the kind of thing where we want to be able to get 500 words out, whether it's a video or something, 4 minutes, but something where we can keep sharing, keep going deeper. So I'm glad you have, a way of doing that. I think particularly given your topic, you need to do that. So fantastic. And do you have a YouTube channel?
I do.
Okay.
And so I have a YouTube channel, but mostly, really, I'm finding Facebook and Instagram are the two places at the Grant Muller
Good.
are really the places where I'm living the most, where I'm having the most conversations, and where it seems that people are really connecting in. So it's a miracle to write a book for 3 years and then get feedback. Some of my favorite feedback are things like, hey, honestly, I hate to read and I couldn't put your book down. I picked up your book to go to sleep last night and I ended up reading it for 4 hours and didn't get enough sleep. That's just those, as you know, as an author, that's really it's rewarding. It's rewarding.
It is.
Yeah.
And if you see Grant and you got your book, first of all, beat it up a little bit so he knows you've been reading it. And then I'm telling you right now, one of the greatest things that an author experiences, even better than a review, is somebody walking up and having the kindness and the courage to ask for an autograph. We love signing them. We're begging you to ask us. And if you don't, we'll probably ask you if we can do it. But that's another kind of unexpected joy I'm assuming you've been experiencing.
It's beautiful. And last night, I had a little launch team, so I threw a party for them last night. And I actually created these brand, and please, when we're done, share with me your home address and I'll make sure you get one. We created a branded box that includes the book, a bookmark, a handwritten card, as well as a highlighter. If you look at the book cover, it's got a highlighter. So I want people to use the book, dig in there, highlight it. And that's been really fun. It got a little viral, and it's been another way for people. And I send a signed copy. So that's been fun. You're right. People love it, and authors love to sign.
It means a great deal. Actually, when you start giving keynotes on this, as an aside, I always typically, even if I have to pay my airfare to go give a presentation, I don't want to be hawking books on the stage. I don't want to give a message that's so powerful. Now we send people to a bookstore. I want 400 books in that room. And
Absolutely.
Before that audience asks, I'm up in that room in my Marriott room signing 400 books. So they've got them. But it's really makes the difference. I know that makes a difference when I get a book that's signed by an author. All right, let's talk about your coaching a little bit. So you're, it seems kind of natural, but what inspired you to coach?
So I owned a boutique brokerage, and I had enough of the agents asking me, hey, how the heck are you doing what you're doing? We don't see you running crazy ads. We don't see you spending a ton of money buying ads from Zillow. How are you getting all these deals? And so I started coaching the agents, and it really turned out to be more like training than coaching. And during COVID, when things were shut down in real estate for a while, I thought, this is over. Real estate's over for the next 12 months. Little did I know that it would get so crazy. I hired a coach. They happened to be a high performance coach. And at the end of that first session, I said, this was incredible. How do I get certified to coach my agents with this process? Because what I saw was the missing piece. I had been training, really, the agents, and they weren't following through on the things I was teaching. I was giving them the keys to the kingdom, and they weren't following through. And as you know, and anybody who's been around for a while knows, especially in sales, it's the habits, it's the personal development, it's the mindset, the skill set, and the heart set to follow through on these pieces. And so high performance coaching is the skill set piece of mindset, skill set, heart set, or a big part of the skill set piece. So do you have the courage? Do you have the influence? Do you have the productivity? Do you have the energy to show up as you really want to, so that you can influence people in your life?
Yeah. And boy, you hit it right. You hit it right on the nose. And the longer I've been in my field, the more I've realized that I'm useless to people if they don't implement. I mean, I can entertain, I can inspire, I can motivate, and by golly, I can inform and put real, repeatable, predictable processes out there that are measurable. But if you left and developed amnesia 3 days later and said, I got a good idea or two from this guy, Rob and Grant, I failed you. So I think that's right. I think, and particularly in coaching, I think we lose sight of that. It almost becomes therapy. I do some coaching myself. And I don't want to be a therapist. Matter of fact, it probably goes against what you learned, but I tell people I'd be a lousy therapist anyhow, because sometimes I'm going to let you find your way to this mountain. And other times I'm going to say, take a left, take a right and go down that hallway.
Sure.
I'm not gonna spend 2 more sessions trying to have you find it. I'll inspire you to take the path and figure out a process to make sure you stay on the path. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think our job is to help, or at least I'll speak for myself. My job is to help my clients take a process from a general perspective that I know works, that's proven, that's based on scientific study, the largest scientific study ever of personal development, actually, and say, okay, I know these things that work for improving your energy, but whether you want to go for a morning walk, do yoga, go for a run, go swimming, that's up to you. So you need to find the place that works for you. If I said you have to do strength training 3 days a week to improve your energy, and that's the only way, then very few people will be able to follow it. And I think that's the problem is we follow these people. You think of any big name guru, and a lot of times it's like, well, this is what worked for me, so now I'm going to shove you into that system. And that just doesn't work for us as human beings, especially if we're entrepreneurs or salespeople. The last thing we ever want to do is be shoved into anybody else's system. We're renegades. That's why we do what we do.
yeah. And good point. I actually think training, particularly sales training, fails for a handful of reasons, but two of the biggest are: one, it's typically product training, not sales training. So all I'm doing is pushing you further from having a conversation. But the second one, it's kind of tricky, and I'm interested in your feedback on this, is the mentoring. There's this mythical mentor, it's usually Larry, who's been with the company X amount of years.
Right.
We're going to partner you up with Larry. And Larry is maybe an unconscious competent. Larry, his numbers are good, plays a good game of golf. He couldn't really tell you how he's pivoting, where he's turning his shoulders, how he's bringing his arms through, but he hits the ball far and scores well.
Right.
And that's your mentor who's telling you basically, usually it's more style than technique that they're sharing. And so we've got somebody that with too much information in their head, never really learned how to have a conversation, and trying to copy somebody that they're not. And we wonder why people fail coming right out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. And same with leadership. We promote those people. We end up promoting that guy from sales trainer to leader. And does he have the leadership skills or the motivation skills? I think that's the Peter principle. But in sales, I think, it's often that. It's also just watch what I do and try to emulate me. Some version of that, or it's some version of, and I take this down in my book, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
So in real estate, the way I was taught to write my first contract was, go ahead and fill it out to the best of your abilities and let me know when you get stuck. That's not training.
Right.
And we're talking about managing what is often someone's most valuable, highly prized asset financially. And so if it's in that industry, it's in all the industries. And we need actual real skill sets. We don't need to be experts to do well in sales, which is lovely. We don't have to be experts on the product. I bet you could put me, I should say this now and you have to test me, but I'm pretty sure I could sell a few cars. I wouldn't be the best car salesperson, but it's just about building a relationship. And then all of the data, we already have all the data. Our clients just need actionable intelligence from us. So, and that's where AI again, right? I mean, all the data is out there. We can do all the Google searches, but what does this mean for me?
Right.
So, are we selling, a soccer mom with 9 kids? Are we selling her the right car or not? She doesn't need a 2-seat sports car, even though it might be the best deal on the lot.
Yeah. So, but 20 years working with Toyota, I could tell you absolutely you'd be very good because of all of what you said. Strangely, and this is kind of weird and ironic, and I've never really articulated this way, but I sometimes think the more we learn, the less in touch we are. In other words, we get less effective sometimes. You not knowing everything about that car really wouldn't be in the way, because it would force you to develop a relationship, to understand what the customer's looking for. But the smarter you get, and the more where I know every car on this lot, I know everything, the more susceptible you are to showing off everything that you know. And that's not selling.
That's not selling. That's so well said. It's so true. And I believe the greatest gift we can give another human being is to allow them to be seen.
Yeah.
So to really give them a space for who they are. And so when we pigeonhole them, and I just used a terrible example, but if someone walks on the lawn and I think to myself immediately, soccer mom, that's the opposite of being seen. So curiosity is a big part of that heart set. It's about showing up and wondering what's up for somebody, what's going on for them, and not making assumptions. And I just had some clients in real estate who she's an interior designer student. He's a hobby writer of horror. And what would you imagine whatever you imagine their budget was and how available they are, what they have available to buy a house, you would never guess. I mean, we just closed it this morning, and it's a really high-end, ultra high net worth closing that happened in 10 days cash. And so you never know who's coming. And by the way, that was a referral from a lunch I had recently with a past client of mine. Who, it was just, I say I lunch for a living. Well, I lunch for a really good living.
Right.
And it was just me hanging out with that person, having a relationship. So I think when we're not curious, and there are many ways along that path that me from 10 years ago would have made the wrong assumptions and headed that whole relationship down the wrong path. But I was just remained curious. And so I'm getting us off track, but it's the relationship, right? It's not about my expertise about real estate.
Yeah. No, and you're not off track. You're right on track. The book is called Top of Heart: How a New Approach to Business Saved My Life and Could Save Yours Too. Out there just July 11th, so it's fresh and ready for you. All right, I'm gonna put you to a little bit of a test. I like where we were going in terms of we can inspire, we can talk all we want, but what are we actually going to do? So give me one or two things that our listeners, somebody listening right now, could start doing today to create some of these relationships that you're describing.
Absolutely. Let's go back to lunch again.
Okay.
So as I say, I lunch for a living. I have lots of lunches. And what used to happen is I would rush to lunch, always running late, on the phone with another agent, maybe negotiating something, slam my car and park in the parking lot, run into the restaurant, look at my phone on the calendar to see who I'm about to meet with, walk up to the table and go, hey, Rob, how are you? And you can imagine the frenetic energy I brought to lunch. And so one thing about building a top of heart mindset is to create some intention around how we want the other person to feel. Because I don't think we're in the relationships business. I think we're in the feelings business. So how do I want you to feel at the end of our conversation? So I always take what I call a snapshot now. So I've created a trigger where every time, and my business is about going around, your business might be walking through an office door, but every time my car goes into park, I take a snapshot and I think, who am I about to spend this time with? Who am I about to have a meeting with? And what might they value in this next little moment? So I might know, for instance, that Tammy's dad just died because I've seen it on social media. So I might take a snapshot. I'll just close my eyes for a brief moment, breathe quietly, think of Tammy, and think, what might Tammy need? And usually in that instance, for instance, I'm not going to assume Tammy needs my sympathy. I might just walk in with curiosity and realize that I might create some space for Tammy. She might want to talk about how sad she is. She might want to cry. She might want to talk about everything but losing her dad. So I'm just going to be curious and let Tammy lead the way. But if Matt just got engaged and I saw that on social media, I might take a snapshot and think, I'm going to bring all the energy and enthusiasm and excitement for Matt into the lunch. So it would be a very different kind of lunch, but it's about taking a snapshot and just creating some intention around, how do I want to show up for this person? What I used to do is think, how do I get this person to give me referrals? How do I ask this person for more business? And you can see how the difference is in that intention.
Yeah. Well said. I remember I was asked one time, how hard should I shake somebody's hand? It's kind of a nutty question, but okay. And I said, as hard as the hand that's coming in to shake mine, I'm matching the pressure. And I realized that's kind of a metaphor. You know what I mean?
That's great. Yeah.
What we're trying to do is this, Tammy, what you're describing is sometimes people want to talk about that. And I'm actually a great example of someone that who's an extrovert who likes to talk, but I've had a few twists and turns in the road. And when I'm twisting and turning, I prefer not to talk about it. You're not getting closer to me by asking me those questions. Now, the next person over, if you don't ask a question about how's the child doing now or whatever, then they interpret that as a lack of sensitivity. So once again, like that handshake, there's no right answer. The right answer is trying to read the room, read that other person. What are they social? Are they dominant? Are they analytical? I don't go too far into Myers-Briggs. There's too many quadrants. We have to read it off an email, off a voice message, off of the conversation we're having. But I think there are some general buckets, and I'm looking for that pressure to match that pressure. But it's a good technique.
And I love that metaphor. And then in that moment, the thing I love about being face to face is when we leave space and room, we pay attention to the emotion in the moment, in between the lines, it can create some really fantastic opportunities. That little glisten that someone gets in the eye when they're talking about something that's super important to them, we can kind of see that on Zoom, but not even quite on Zoom. It's an in-person thing, or you can kind of imperceptibly feel their heart rate rise. You can just feel it because they're in their presence. And when we honor that emotion in the moment, we go from me to we, and we create real alignment. And that place of alignment, I believe that's where the referrals lie. So not to take it back to business, but we're in business. And that's where, by the way, a highly inspired life lies. Because when we do business that way, it's so much more fun, but it's also where all the money is. And so why not go to that place where all the joy and the money is?
Yep. And I can assure you, Grant, a vendor isn't going to do that. I think a vendor, it's like a 4-letter word to me. Please never call me a vendor. It just means we have nothing together except what other commodity I have. And if you find it better, cheaper, quicker, bluer, I'm gone. And when I go, what happened? You'll go, what do you mean what happened? You're a vendor.
Yeah, I was going to say vendor is commodity. Yes.
Yeah. You're describing something completely different. You're saying, we're not talking about me. We're talking about connections, about authenticity. And I really want to push back on a point you had. And I say push back, just push back to that part of the conversation of that authenticity of finding something that's relevant here and now. I think as a professional speaker, my son is a professional comedian. I watched him. He was headlining in DC last week. That was a tremendous treat for a father. Wow. And what I loved about what he was doing was he was talking about things we did that day. He was talking about the crap I was giving him about the shirt he was wearing. But you know what? That audience knew this guy's coming from this isn't canned right now. I mean, we're going to get into material, but to be able to warm that room up, that individual up with something that we know doesn't go to every customer. It's going to you right now. That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we can do the things, and I borrowed this phrase and I don't know where from, but I always like to say that, but if we can do the things that do not scale, we can go after the things that just don't scale. I think that's where the real power is. And one example for me is, and by the way, you can find a way to make those things scale. I write handwritten birthday cards. So that's and they are handwritten, hand stamped. I actually write the cards, but my assistant creates a stack of all the cards for next month on the 15th for the next month. She handwrites the envelopes. She stamps them. She looks it all up. All I have to do is just sit there and write the cards. But the point is, that's my number one marketing tool. It's unbelievable.
Really?
I call it my number one marketing tool because I always hear back from people. And by the way, I then follow up with a phone call on their birthday or a text, depending on how we communicate. But the reason I say it's my number one tool is because it's the highest rate of return I have. Everybody responds to those. They don't care about my email newsletter. I send it out to remind them I'm a realtor, but it's the handwritten birthday card. That's where the rubber meets the road, because that's our personal holiday. And it feels like, if you think about the friction in that, when you get a card, you think, oh my gosh, what a pain that was. They had to go out shopping for a card. They had to pick one out. They had to fill it out. They had to go buy stamps. They had to put it in the envelope, take it to the post office. And I've created a process around it so there's less friction. But when we do things that have a lot of friction, it's appreciated because we know what a pain that is.
Very impressive. And I've certainly heard that when I volunteer and help people who are in career transition. And we're always talking about handwritten thank you note. Don't shoot an email to thank a recruiter or somebody, a hiring manager. Handwrite it. But we're not doing a stack of those a month. Very impressive. And listen, as you're hearing that story, also hear what he said about that story, which is, take some time. And it's the best marketing tool that you've got. And because I don't see a whole lot of people battling you in line right now with handwritten cards.
No, that's right. That's right. And so, and that goes back to the authenticity thing too. We all talk about how do we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. And then at the same time, we take what makes us different and we try to hide it and make it smaller. So why not just show up as we really are, quirks in place, weird snort when we laugh, whatever the thing might be. I love horses. It's kind of a weird thing and not something I'd necessarily advertise, but I like horses. That's who I am. It's it's an unusual thing. You wouldn't expect that about me. Why hide that? Why not let that be part of the overall person you're working with? So you can see I'm a human being and I've got this hobby, and more people ask me about my horse when I talk to them than they do about how I'm doing. So it's become something that's helped me sell. But whatever that thing is about you, whether you collect cars or butterflies, let it shine. You follow the Grateful Dead, awesome, or whatever the incantation is that's left, or but follow them and enjoy that and let that become part of who you are and bring that to work with you. Because when we bring all of us to work, we're enthusiastic and fun people to be around. And so when we're fun people to be around, people will buy from us.
Excellent point. And maybe it wouldn't be so bad if we could try and figure out whether our customers into a horse or a pony or a dog or whatever it is, and make a note of that, because it's nice knowing the children's names and the wife's name. But we all have that horse. It's a different thing.
But when that's honored, but that's absolutely right. And when we honor that, it's incredible. And so I'm often asked, in fact, I'm about to write an article about this because I get asked all the time, what's the closing gift you give? Realtors like to give closing gifts. And I say, well, what's the birthday gift you give to all your friends? And they say, well, I usually, it depends on what they like. And so that's a gift.
Yeah.
Well, you were asking me about what's your marketing thing you give to people. But if it's got your branding on it, it's not really a gift. It's just a marketing thing. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But call it what it is. So anyway.
Yeah. I'm going to break your rule now and tell you that I was working with a realtor when we sold our house, and she is the number one realtor in the state of Virginia. That's not propaganda. And I gave her an idea, and she's been running with it for 6 years now. Cool. Because she gave me, she's done 2 different sales for me. One, I got a bottle of wine or whatever. Right? I'm not even a wine drinker, to your point.
Yeah.
But is there a universal gift? And I will just tell you that we'll get off of this. But I said, you took all these pictures of my home. I would love those, to send them to Shutterfly, give them to Amazon, but bind them up, make a book, and let me put something on the shelf, because it's the most beautiful my house ever looked. We were there for 26 years. That would be a nice gift to me. I can't tell you it's 100% everyone, but I can't imagine somebody going, I never want to see that house again.
That's really funny you say that. I actually do that. And it's in a beautiful leather bound book.
Right.
It's gorgeous. There are some exceptions. It doesn't work as well. It just, there's certain times when people are super emotional about their house and it's a great thing. But then there's certain times when it's just not, it doesn't fit. But when it fits, but it's a brilliant idea. And you're right. It's the best. It's when the house looks the best. And the photos are the best. I mean, who lives like that, right?
Yeah. But you're right, because if
Great
I'm in
idea.
this house because we had a bitter feud with a neighbor or whatever,
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
bind it up and show it to me.
Yeah.
But I got it.
Yeah, no, but that's a beautiful idea. I love that.
Yeah. All right. I got one last question for you. And I just asked it in my last podcast because somebody had told me, said, I never miss your podcast. And Rob, I'll tell you the question I love that you ask. You ask people, what's one thing that I should have asked you? And I was laughing because I thought, that's a question I've never asked in my life. I don't know what podcast you're listening to, but not a bad question. So we'll close with that one. Give me maybe one question I should have asked you.
That is a good question. I would, one question I've always loved is, what would you do differently if you were building your business today? If you were starting over, how would you do it differently? And my answer is not very surprising. I would go all in on relationships. What I didn't understand early on was I had some repeat and referral by mistake, and I had some internet lead generation, and I had some referrals from other agents. I had all these different pockets. And what I didn't understand is, even though some of my internet lead generation didn't have the best ROI, if I had treated all those clients like all my other clients that were referred in, then the ROI today would be so much bigger, because I would have treated everybody as this important repeat and referral opportunity. So, it just shocks me. I have a really nice car, right? I'm a realtor, you know how we are. And I have a high-end, really nice car. And I talk to people all over the city. I bring people in from other places. I would be the most incredible referral source. I've never heard from that salesperson, or any of the salespeople I bought nice cars from, ever again after buying my car. I don't understand that. It could take one sale and turn it into 5 or 10. So just really, really believing in the power of referrals could change any salesperson or business person's life.
Yeah, excellent point. And you're absolutely right. The good ones, they don't do it accidentally. Do a whole show on referrals.
Yeah.
The book is called Top of Heart: How a New Approach to Business Saved My Life and Could Save Yours Too. And I'm going to pay you a compliment. I'm going to tell you that you fit a very unusual mold for me. I was on a red eye one time, which meant I didn't know whether I was awake or asleep. I was coming back from LA, and I popped up and I thought, I have just come up with the definition of wisdom. And my definition, and I wrote it down. And the weird part was, in the morning, I still liked it. Because you know what I mean? Sometimes it's a little better, at 3:30 in the morning. But I think wisdom consists of three things. It consists of success, failure, and a conscious knowledge of the lesson learned from each. So if all you've been, Grant, is successful, man, I'd like to hang around with you, but I wouldn't necessarily call you wise. Lucky, fortunate. Yeah. If all you've had is failure, same thing, my heart bleeds for you. But when you have a little each, and you have had some of each, rather dramatic on both sides, and then you sit and write about it, which means now I know you not only had them, but you have a conscious knowledge of the lessons learned from each. You fit what I consider to be the definition of a very wise person. And that's what makes that book of yours interesting to me. I can tell you that I'm looking forward to getting your box, but I don't want a book in there because I want to get my own so I can write you a verified review on it. If you give it to me, it's not verified. So, but I appreciate the sentiment. But I congratulate you. Yours is a wonderful story. I think it sounds like a terrific book. And I'm just grateful you were able to spend some time with me today. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and it's great getting to know you. I've learned so much from this time we've had together, and that's why I love this conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, it's the beauty of podcasting. I learn a ton from my guests, and I hope I can throw in a couple ideas myself. Anyway, how do people get a hold of you?
So the best way is www.grantmuller.com.
Okay, and that's just the way it sounds, GrantMuller. So that's not sometimes I get guests and their names are spelled really unusually. Sure. It's like, you better spell that, but no, it's GrantMuller.com, just the way it sounds. Anyway, all right, listen, folks, we'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.